to the Go Low Auto Podcast. I'm Jason. I'm joined again with my buddy Tim. How we doing?
How's it going?
All right. So we were just talking a little bit before we hit record, and we decided to start recording because we were just getting too into everything. But Gymkhana files. It started. Episodes 3 and 4 are out. You saw 3 and 4. I've only seen 1 and 2, but I don't think there's much bigger going on in the car world than this right now.
Not from what I've seen around that. It's just, definitely Gymkhana 3 and 4. And they're both really good. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Unicorn. So
yeah, as a Mustang owner, you have to be.
Yeah, and I gotta keep saying I'm not a Mustang guy. I've had 2 of them, but I'm not a Mustang guy.
Right.
But yeah, no, like the Unicorn is just amazing. Like, and, you know, they've got like a new like race livery on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or however you want to say it, but no, it's cool, and things like shooting like fireballs and everything.
I think it has to be one of the coolest cars out there. I mean, it's a '65 Mustang, and not only does it have like a modern drivetrain, it's an all-wheel drive, like sequential gearbox. Like it's 1,400 horsepower in itself is insane.
Somebody asked me last week at work. Dude was like, "Hey, if you could have any car in the world, what would you have?" I was like, "Any car?" He's like, "Any car." I was like, I'd throw AC in the Unicorn and daily drive it.
What do you think? What do you think the Unicorn realistically would cost? Have they ever talked about that?
I have no idea. You figure that motor alone, it's the I think I said it's a 416 Roush Yates motor or something like that. But
right.
So like just and then the engineering that went into that, like I have no idea what it costs. But if I won that $1 billion though, I'd find out.
Yeah. Right.
Like build me one of
when
these.
When did you start watching Gymkhana? Did you see the original back in the day?
Let's see, maybe like 2 or 3. I forgot it's the one with the it had the Subaru ones, whichever one that was.
Right.
I think I started with that. Yeah.
I remember like peripherally seeing the original Gymkhana, but not really like I was just like, oh, that's a cool vibe. Like I didn't really know that like, and then it was a few years later I was like, oh, they keep making more of these. Like I didn't jump on board, right? I didn't know what was going on at first. And
the crazy thing about it, like the videos, they start going in, like they go into like the history of Ken Block. Apparently he got started like racing and everything kind of late.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Right. And then you see they show him traveling and doing a little bit of racing. And, you know, I've heard people say it on the internet and stuff that he's like, they say like he's maybe not the best, but I mean, I know it's probably harder than it looks. But yeah, the marketing behind the whole Hoonigan thing is pretty nice. I mean,
the Hoonigan. I've always watched the Hoonigans on YouTube. I check in and out. I don't watch every video, but like I always, whenever they have a build I'm interested in, but I didn't realize Ken Block had like I think it was he sold DC for $100 million. They said in the first episode, and then decided to take rally classes at like 37 years old. So it's like.
Hey, there's hope for me being a race driver. I'm 36.
Right, exactly. You still got time. But I've read that too, where people are like, "Oh, he's never won a title or whatever." But I'm like, "Yo, he got into racing as a hobby because he wanted to, and he's become probably one of the most famous drivers in the world, whether he's the best or not."
Right.
He also, I was listening to a podcast, and the director Brian Scotto was on it.
Yep.
And he was saying that Ken Block is one of the very few people he's met in his lifetime where he's like the fear gene just literally doesn't exist. Like Ken Block isn't ever scared. Like he in episode 1 Pikes Peak he talked about it and he's like, oh, I'm not doing that again. But if you watch him driving, he was ice cold. Like that's what I was gonna say, that Evo corner they talk about where the Evo and flip, it didn't even look like he got nervous. He just fucking sent it. Crazy.
And another thing, like you hear people talk about the Gymkhana videos and they're like, oh, well, he's done that trick. You can see the tire marks like 10 times. And it's like, yo, even, you know, who's going to go and nail that like first trick right away? Like even doing the stuff he does is like still amazing, you know?
Exactly. And that's what they were saying in one of them where the one where they were on like the pier and he had the tires right at the edge.
Right.
That was based on like the director kept being like, all right, move it get 4 inches closer to the edge. Like it's like he did it over and over again because they basically just push him to see how gnarly it can get. Like,
right.
and again, it's like you said, it's like there's no way anyone's nailing those first try.
Exactly. And like he said, sometimes it's not even like he said he'll do it, but he's like, no, I can go back and do that better. So he goes and do it again. You know what I'm saying? So
right. And he also seems like a little bit of like a perfectionist. So it's
right.
The flips. There's so much that goes into production too. But it's like if you miss a shot on one camera, you have to redo it to get the shot. Like it's not just about. I'm sure he could do a lot of those pretty gnarly first try, but they're also trying to make spectacular videos. They need the footage. They need the angles. They need. Like, if there's not enough tire smoke, they'll do it again because they need it to look a certain way.
Exactly. So which one's your favorite one? What's your favorite one?
I don't remember what number it is, but it was the one where it had, like, the swinging balls, like, with the spikes on it.
Okay, yeah.
I think that was 5.
Yeah, I know it had to be earlier. Either maybe like a 4 or 5, something like that.
I don't know why that one. I think that was probably the one that I rewatched a bunch of times and realized like that it was a thing. Because like I said, I'd seen it peripherally, but like that was when I was like, oh man, they're still doing these. Like this is wild. And that's that would have been around the time that I started giving drifting paying more mind to it. Because 10 years ago, I was like, drifting is dumb. Like why do they do this? It's not. Because back in the day, like this is where. I mean, back when we met, all I cared about was going fast in a straight line. I didn't care about handling. I didn't care about any of that. So it was like I've come to appreciate different types of racing and different types of builds in my older age. So I was like, okay. When I saw him drift, I was like, oh, I get it. This is sick.
Right. Yeah, drifting, man. I just, gosh, it's so expensive to get into. You know, having a car like. And then, like, you know, you're beating on this thing at, like, wide open throttle or whatever, you know, like, I don't know. It's just pricey.
That actually brings up an interesting point. Someone commented on last week's podcast asking if an electric drift car would be like cheating. Because the instant torque, and I'm like, I don't think anyone's tackled a full-on electric drift car. I don't know if the technology's there yet, but that got me thinking, like, that would be pretty sick because there's just torque always, literally always. And but then again, I've never drifted, so I'm like, would that be bad? Would it be too much? Like, do you need to build to it to be able to like feather it correctly? Like, I can't wait because someone's gonna try it,
right? And I just have no idea how to work with the whole like. I mean, because I know they clutch kick to get the you know, the weight
initiate.
Yeah, so like I just have no idea how an electric vehicle would play into that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you'd just have to you'd have to create a clutch that just like pauses the power for a second, even though you're not really shifting gears.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And like I know, like, you know, a lot of times like they're bouncing off the rev limiter, so like I don't know how that power delivery would affect drifting. Maybe somebody can comment below if you're, you know.
Yeah, no, I know at some point someone's gonna get crazy, especially with the cost of electric vehicles going down.
Right.
Because I mean, no one's gonna buy $100,000 car and be like, oh, let me just see if this works. I mean, there may be someone out there, but you know, with the Model 3s you can get for 35 supposedly, even though those ones haven't been delivered yet. But in a couple years, that 35 is going to turn into low 20s.
Exactly.
And I mean, you're getting into like a more reasonable vehicle to be messing with. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see where I think there's almost like a renaissance in like quote unquote hot rodding with electric cars.
Yeah, like powerful motors and stuff in the tiny little cars.
Yep, and also like people, it's just like, I mean, back in the day, you think back to original hot rodders, they would take something that wasn't meant to be fast, tinker with a little bit, and make it fast.
Right.
There's so much capability in all these electric cars.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, in North Carolina.
Hang on, I think
the P100 where he just did weight reduction and he goes and beats up on V8s at the track.
Right.
I think all he did was he put bucket seats in the front, nothing in the back, like racing bucket seats.
Right.
And it's like there's so much capability in these things, and this is only Tesla. In the future, there's going to be more cars coming because electric's happening, whether people like it or not.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's kind of cool to see where it's going to go.
Same thing with the whole manual transmission thing.
Yeah, I mean that's good news for me because I can't drive stick anymore. So I was a strong proponent of like keep stick alive, but now I'm like, nah, let's move forward with these, dual clutch and electric with no gears, and because I don't think I'm ever driving stick again, not aggressively. Like I could get it around a parking lot, but I'm not rolling through gears.
Right.
Clutch foot's not built for that anymore.
Right, and this is completely like jumping around subjects, but you were just talking about you said you watch Hoonigans if there's a build that you're interested in. I don't know if you got a chance to check out the it was a Subaru WRX with the GTR drivetrain, like all-wheel drive.
Just watched that video.
Yeah, okay. So I saw that and I was like, man, that's amazing. Like I like the way they did the car and everything. Like
because what is it? It's an RB26, right?
Yeah, RB26, yep.
And that was one of the cleanest bays I've ever seen on a swapped car. And then the fact that they had to like put in a custom firewall, like literally every aspect of that car was custom.
Right.
That was a sick build. I really like the fact that he kept it like a stockish interior too. Obviously, he had a bull bar, so backseat was non-functional, but it was there, and it looked like a street car still. Like it was not like a crazy race car build.
Definitely a good-looking car. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, that was that. Actually, you know what? Now that you mentioned it, that was one of the best builds I've seen on Hoonigans in a while.
Right.
When I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a new GTR motor, and I was like, okay, this is going to. But I think it's even cooler with an RB26.
Yeah, that was a pretty stout motor.
That was. Did it say what kind of power he was making? I don't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember. I have to go back and look.
Yep. Then another one of my favorite builds on the Hoonigans is the Hertz the Drift RX-7, the FC.
FC? Yeah. That's super nice.
That car.
But like he had the turbo LS in it, and like then he took it out so he could put the rotary back in. But like it seems like he's been driving less.
Okay, now it's a rotary. You know it's broken more. There's no way it's not.
And people get so angry. The rotary purists are like, no, why would you swap an LS into the FC? It needs to have a rotary in it. But I mean, think about it. If you're not like made of money, what's wrong with the LS? It's reliable, power, and cheap. Like I don't get how people hate on that.
No, everyone hates on. I was listening to again another podcast, and they were talking about how it's the internet too, because the internet makes you jaded about things. Where they're like, everyone loves to complain about an LS swap, but when was the last time you saw an LS swap in person? And if you saw an LS swap in person, you'd be like, "Oh, sick! They swapped an LS into it." Like, because it's something different than like if you saw an LS Miata online, you're like, "Oh, there's a bunch of those." I've never seen one in person.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's like it's so easy to like because we have access to so much information now. People get so accustomed to things, but I'm like, an LS Miata is wild. An LS 240 is wild. I've never seen it. Not in real life.
Well, I think there's a couple of them riding around here down in Virginia Beach or whatever. That's just military dudes with money, but
I'm sure there are. But it's like everyone acts like it's a dime a dozen, and it's like it's really not. Even if there's thousands of them in the country,
right?
It's a big country.
I would love to.
It's not cheap in the sense. I mean, you're still going to drop money into any swap. Swaps are expensive, but in terms of especially for drifting, it's got torque. Yeah. Probably the most reliable swap you can do, and the easiest access to cheap power.
I don't understand how people hate on that. Like, I get the RX-7, the rotary level, whatever. The RX-7, I think, is one of the best looking cars come out of Japan, and so I get it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure.
I don't even think that's debatable. Absolutely one of the best.
Right, but like that motor, man, like unless you're like
the thing is that like rotary purists will swear that, but then it's also like not one of them will deny that they're completely unreliable. So it's like you'll say it's unreliable, but then you'll act like people are crazy for not wanting to deal with that.
Right.
People love the platform, they love the looks, they love how they handle, but it's like you got to put reliable, especially if you want to drift, you have to have reliable power. Yeah,
I want a car I can drive.
I mean that, and that's a valid point though, because I don't remember the last time I saw the FC drifting.
Yeah, like I said, he's. I know that one guy, Vargas, I guess from Angel Motorsports. He does all of his work and stuff, and you see him working on it every now and then. But like, I just don't see it drifting. But I think Hertz working on that. He's got his simple seat Stallion, the 240 or something like that, and then I think he's got a new FD that he's working on. So
Yeah, I see. Everyone goes for the FDs, but I think I'm a little bit more in. I like FCs.
Yeah, I like those. And I think if I was going to do like a drift car, I mean, either if I could find like a 240 that wasn't completely trashed, or a let's say E36 BMW is a good platform.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of I've seen. There's a guy in Connecticut that I watch on YouTube, Jimmy Oaks, and he's got a friend that had a E36 convertible,
Right.
and that he drifted. And yeah, I mean, without even really much power adders, they seem to take to it really well. I think
Right.
E36s are going to become like the new 240s. In a few years, you're going to be hard pressed to find a clean E36 because they're all going to be clapped from drifting.
Right. I think, yeah, I mean, that and, 10, 15 years, of course, the FRS, I think, is going to be, of course, a good platform.
Yeah. I've said it a bunch of times, but I wish they made a turbo FRS or NBRZ. I really wish they did. I mean, I think the entire car community wishes that, because there's not many people that hate on that car other than the fact that it's just really slow.
And I don't know why they couldn't just stuff the WRX motor in there. I mean, it's like 227 horsepower or something like that, which wouldn't have been a huge jump, but just having the torque from the turbo.
And also, and then, I mean, that opens up aftermarket modability.
Exactly.
We both own turbo 4-cylinders. A chip makes it a whole new engine, whole new car. Yeah. I remember when I had my 1.8T in an Audi, 150 horsepower stock. I put a chip on it, and it had 200.
Yeah, I had the same motor in the GLI, and I had what was it, Revo? I think was a big company back then. Revo APR. I think it was Revo.
I had APR.
Yeah.
And it was literally, it's like, okay, it's 200 horsepower, not crazy by today's standards.
Right.
But I increased 50 horsepower. I dropped it off at the shop for 45 minutes.
Yeah. I
went to an APR shop, and I went to McDonald's, and I came back, and my car had 50 more horsepower. I had 1/3 more power basically with plug and play.
I think stock though they were only running 7 pounds of boost or something, or 5 or something ridiculous like that. So.
And then I put a KL4 on it and opened up a whole new world again. I had nice. I think a GIAC. I think it was GIOC.
Right.
I put I kind of pieced together. I bought a KL4 by itself, and then I got a used GIOC chip from a KL4 package, and just kind of pieced together this whole thing. Installed it in my grandfather's garage. No lift.
Nice.
Terrible lighting. Headed up on Jack's Puzzle. But it's again just the availability of I pieced that together for cheap. Because once a car is already turbo, you can do so much with it for cheap. That's why it's I don't know why. If you have Subaru has turbo motors already.
Right.
They built a sports car. Why not have the turbo? It didn't have to be. I can understand why they didn't make it only turbo, because maybe not as many would have sold.
Right.
But at least having an option.
I think, man, that was just Toyota. It's not the same Toyota anymore. I mean, I'm sure people get angry about that, but it's not. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of these car manufacturers, especially the JDM ones,
in
the 90s, they were all about it.
Exactly. I think at one point. Okay.
They built a model of, and they're clearly doing well, but they sell. I've said this before, but they sell sedans, they sell family vehicles, they sell crossovers.
Right. Here, let me see if I can mess with my lighting here real quick. Yeah. No. Sorry. At one point, man, Toyota was doing I think they had the MR2, the Celica All-Track, the Supra. I mean, they had 4 or 5 sports cars in the 90s all running at the same time, and then I don't know how.
The American market happened. Crossovers just took over.
Yeah, SUVs.
It's sad, and I complain about it all the time, and people might get sick because every time I talk about crossovers, I say I hate them.
Yeah, I can't stand crossovers.
And they serve no purpose to me. I'm like, okay, let's make a bigger car, a bigger. It's supposedly an SUV, but it's not an SUV.
Right.
It's the size of an SUV, but it has a car motor in it.
They just look stupid. I don't know. Not a big fan.
I'm not either. But so, speaking of 90s JDM, this will be an interesting question. If you could have any 90s JDM car, what would it be?
God, it's so cliche. But as far as the cars that we got in America, it'd have to be a 98 Ruby Sapphire Pearl twin turbo Supra. I mean, that's cliche answer, but
not. I would, and I've always said I'd take a Mark IV Supra.
Yeah.
and I will make crazy horsepower with it, and I don't care if it's a highway queen. I don't care if it's a dyno queen. It's gonna sound sick. I don't care if I can't use the power. I'm on board.
But if you're talking like Japanese cars too, then I would say forget the Supra and go with the R33 GTR. So
yeah, soon.
Yeah, in that midnight purple color or whatever. So
yeah, and I think second to that's what I want. Besides I've always said the Supra.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there was a lot though. You had the 3000 GT and 300ZX.
I mean, an NSX would be pretty sick too.
Yeah, definitely had to get a power upgrade though. You know.
Yeah, I would take a Supra over it.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd have to think about it.
I wouldn't.
Man.
I don't know. For me, it's Supra all day, and that's pre Fast and the Furious too. It's not just because of Paul Walker.
Okay.
That didn't hurt either. I mean, that car made the Supras what they were. It really did.
The movie, like Fast and Furious.
Yeah. I think that was like around 01.
2001, June 22nd, 2001. and hang on, the only reason I know that is because my birthday is June 23rd. So
okay. I was about to ask, how do you know that?
Yeah, man. Hey, I left the theater in my let me see, what was it, 96 Saturn SC1.
I had a 91 GMC Jimmy.
Man.
With a cherry bomb glass pack muffler.
Right.
So it was a 4.3 V6, and I was like, so I was ripping home. You're doing 27 miles an hour in a SUV.
Yeah, no, I left and I was like, man, I got to get something else. And I was like, it's got to be a Honda. So, yeah, not sure how that worked out, but yeah, that started the Honda obsession.
And because did you get the Integra after that?
Yeah, the Integra I got. Let's see, was that late 2001, maybe early 2002, somewhere around there? But yeah, my mom actually saw it. She was like, "Hey, I saw an Integra on the side of the road," and I'm like, "What?" And it just happened to be a GSR, and I'm like, "Nice." So bought that. Couldn't even drive it. As a matter of fact, Dad had to drive it home for me. So.
Did you not drive stick?
No.
Did you teach yourself on that car, or did you use another car first?
I taught myself on the car, and it was like lowered intake exhaust that had the what do you call it? The short shifter. So that was a pain trying to learn how to. Yeah, it was a pain. But I got it figured out.
I learned how to drive stick on an old 80s F250 with a dump body on it that my dad had.
Yeah. And
he kept making fun of me for stalling, and it turned out that there was a mouse nest in the clutch, so it wasn't ever like properly engaging. So it's like I learned how to drive it in worst case scenario. I think it actually helped in the long run, but like was not a fun process.
Right, yeah.
And not a cool vehicle whatsoever.
You said F250 though?
Yeah, it was F250 with like at one point my dad was selling. They fit inside the bed of a truck, and it was like, you know, you pushed a button for an electronic dump. Like, so it was like you could turn an F250 into a mini dump truck. But this was like a rusted out 80s. And it was a 4-speed with overdrive. Like, it wasn't even called a 5-speed.
So speaking of trucks, I was online earlier today, Facebook, and I'm part of the Mustang group, just reading the one guy was talking about F-150 or whatever. Yeah, I'm definitely not a Mustang guy. But I mean, you know, I got one, so I was like, I might as well be in the group. And I can't stand Mustang people. But anyway, so I was on the group, and the dude was talking about different trucks. He was like, should I go? He's like, I'm getting F-150. Should I go 5.0 or EcoBoost? And the dude was like, you know, I was hearing the one guy said he got an EcoBoost, and just off like a chip alone, chip and exhaust, I think he said he ran like low 13s. I was like, man, that's nuts. I had no idea they were that quick.
Again, that's with the power of turbos.
Yeah.
They may not be anything stock, because I remember, like, again, with my Audi, I really wanted the 2.8, the V6, because it had so much more power. And then I started researching it, and there's like almost, unless you could afford a supercharger, which was like $6,000, there was really no power adders.
Right.
And it was like just the chip, and the 1.8 was as fast. So it's just like the turbo cars are just like so much modability.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see the price on the Genesis coupes. They're already getting pretty cheap. So, like, say 10, 15 years. Those will make some great drift beaters.
I think if you get into the first couple years, I think you can get them in the low teens, real low teens,
even cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not a. I mean, it's real similar to what you had. It's real similar to the G35 Coupe.
Right.
I mean, in terms of, like it's a similar size. I actually think that, I mean, it's not bad looking.
Here's my thing. My issue with the Genesis though, and the sedan had that the 430 horsepower like Tau V8 or whatever they called it. Like, but the coupe never got that. I was like, if they could put that 430 horsepower V8 and drop that in the coupe, charge what, 35, 40 for it? Like now you got a competitor. Like I don't know why they never went that route in the coupe. I guess that wasn't their goal or their focus or whatever. But man, I just think,
Yeah. But I haven't looked. I wonder what because it's the Genesis. It comes with the 3.8 or the 2.0 turbo, right?
Right. Yep.
I wonder what the 2-liter makes stock.
I don't know. Was it like 220 something like that? I'm not even sure off the top of my head. I know
it's not terrible though.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And I know the 3.8 I think was 350 horsepower if I'm not mistaken.
That's the 3.8. I know there's not a lot of. I actually just saw a whole meme battle on IG the other day between 2-liter guys and 3.8 guys with Genesises, just both dropping memes on each other.
Right.
But apparently, rod knock with any power adders is a common issue with the 3.8 in the Genesis.
Ooh, man,
like,
really?
They know it's like someone was like they made a joke. They're like, "Oh, spend eight grand on full bolt-ons, only make an extra 30 horsepower."
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I think they're pretty highly tuned from the factory.
Gotcha.
But man, that's not a bad sounding V6.
Yeah, no. To me, that's my favorite sounding. Let me see. I'll say it's my favorite sounding non-turbo V6. Yeah,
it's up there. I'm partial to VQs, and it's not just because I have one now. I've always said that, but it's so funny too. Ever since I got this car, I keep hearing people hating on the way VQ sound, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, here's my thing, and this is probably bad, but like when I had one, I liked it. I was like, man, this sounds great. But as soon as I got rid of it and started hearing other ones, I'm like, man, it's got that trumpety like.
Well, you have to be careful with what but I mean, even in stock form, I think they sound great. For stock.
Yeah, they sound pretty good. I think as soon as you throw the exhaust on them is when it gets like, oh man.
You have to be careful what exhaust. I do think. I think that they get a bad reputation because 350Zs are also becoming cheap.
Right.
And I mean, I was young and guilty of this at one point too, but a lot of people just straight pipe them. And I don't think that many cars sound fantastic completely straight piped.
Right.
They get rowdy, but it's not good.
Look for the 350.
Huh?
It's not a good look for the 350 at all.
No, but if you put an actual exhaust on it, like a quality one.
Right.
I mean, I've heard some with just a muffler delete that don't sound bad, but it's like when people, they're like, oh, it's 3-inch straight pipe. I'm like, oh, no. No, baby, what are you doing? No.
Right. That's funny.
Because those, when you straight pipe them, they get very trumpety. Like, that I get. But I'm like, we can't hate on all VQs. Some of them sound good.
Yeah, I mean, people, the internet, they hate on stuff, People hate Mustangs. Yeah, can't say that. Everyone does.
It's true, too. But I mean, for the time, especially for the time, I think it was the best sounding that there was.
Right, definitely.
There wasn't any, because the V8 sounded good back then, but 4-cylinders almost never sound good. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, and I owned a couple. I don't think they ever sound that great.
SRT4 sounded amazing. I think so.
Rowdy.
People hate on that, but I liked it. I don't know.
I mean, I liked it. I didn't hate it, but I'm like, it was never going to sound as good as your Mustang does.
Right. STI sound pretty good. That Boxer Rumble.
Yeah, Boxers, they get a little bit of cred. They sound pretty.
And it's funny is because they sound like that. They said due to the inefficiency design of the header, like the unequal header lengths or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like
the unequal headers that do it.
Yeah, so it's like they sound good due to like a bad header design. Like I don't know, it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, they sound good due to a flaw. Like, no, it's like the SRT4. That car, especially because I had in Pensacola, I got a 3-inch turbo back exhaust with a high flow cat.
Right.
And then the muffler, the way it worked on the SRT4 was the muffler was right at the back of the car.
Yeah.
So you could undo 3 bolts and pop the muffler off, which I used to, do sometimes. And then it got real loud. But it had a MagnaFlow muffler and, 3-inch turbo back with a high flow cat. It did. It sounded pretty good, but I mean, it's like I said, it sounded good for a 4-banger.
Right.
It was never going to sound good compared to larger motors. That's how I feel with most 4-cylinders.
Yeah. I like the SRT4. I think another 4-cylinder that sounded pretty good. I like Toyota's Turbo 4s, like for the 3S GT out of the All-Track and the MR2. I think those sound pretty good.
Yeah. The MR2s are such an underrated platform.
Yeah.
Then they made them so bad. The last generation MR2s were so bad.
I think they were just slow.
They were really they made them way smaller and super ugly and funky looking. And I think they got rid of the turbo, and I don't think they had a turbo variant.
No, I think it had the freaking was it the silica motor? Like, yeah,
so 1.8.
Yeah. So that was kind of crappy.
That was the beginning of the end of fun Toyota cars, because then it was like at one point their sporty car was the Celica GTS.
Yeah.
It's 180 horsepower, I think, for a 1.8 liter, and it's like, okay, like
for the time though, the 180 wasn't bad. I mean, compared to like
it wasn't, but to go from a Mark IV Supra to a Celica GTS as like your top.
Their train of thought was completely different. I remember the commercials for the Celica. Their slogan was "Looks fast." That was always hey, this car looks fast, So they got a little bit of flack for that.
One thing I miss about that time period though of the 90s cars.
What's that?
Is I miss how many coupes there were available. Now, I mean, I've always rocked sedans, and I think that they're more practical for a lot of reasons for certain stuff. But like,
of course,
half the cars on the road were coupes back then because they were cheaper. All the Civics were 2 doors. It's like I don't even know if you can get a 2-door Civic anymore. I think you can get a 2-door Accord.
They got the 2-door Civics. I think the newer. Oh yeah. I think they do.
No, that's right, they do. But it's like you don't see it as often. Like the sedan is definitely the go-to now. Like there was a lot of coupes back in the day, and it was like you can make them look cool easier. I love sedans and wagons, and I like that too. But it was cool to have more coupes.
Yeah, I'm not a sedan guy. I'm not a big sedan guy. Definitely not a wagon guy.
I've always had fast sedans.
Right. I guess it's cool though because you throw the family in the back, whatever, and still like.
It was always the sleeper aspect of it for me, and also I'm 6'3", so even in a sedan, whoever sits behind me is usually out of luck.
So you don't fit an S2000 or a Miata,
huh? Miata, no. I've driven an S2000,
right?
And I fit.
Yeah.
I mean the knee area gets tight,
right?
And I remember saying this, and everyone made the joke. I was like, the headroom wasn't bad. They're like, yeah, it's convertible. And I was like, well, all right, assholes. The top was up. I meant with the top up. Obviously, when you put the top down, there's endless headroom. But no, Miata, I don't think I could do.
Yeah, the new Miatas, man, look amazing. Like, I want to test drive one. I'm afraid to, though.
Because you're going to want one?
Yeah. They said they bumped it up to like 180 horsepower. So, like,
yeah.
I feel like, I'm sure you heard the saying, people say it's a lot, you have more fun driving a slow car fast than a fast car slow. So,
yeah, that's actually a really good point, too. And it's kind of touches on something I was talking about in last week's podcast, where I was saying I kind of feel like cars are getting too fast, and I think we're reaching a point of too much horsepower. And I know that's crazy to say.
Right.
But I talked about this in last week's podcast. I'd love to get your opinion on it. The ZR1 Corvette is the perfect example I can think of. Every article I've read, every person who's driven one that's like, in the industry, they said that car's scary on a track. Like it's so much power, and it's like it really has, I think, reached the limits of a front engine. That's why they're obviously moving to a mid-engine platform. Maybe that'll make a difference, but it's just like that seems like a scary car for people without driving experience to be able to buy, and they can.
Yeah, well, money doesn't buy driving skills. That's why I
No,
like.
it doesn't. But it's just like I feel like that car. Like, let's say you go to a track event,
Right.
you're gonna scare the shit out of yourself trying to handle that thing because that thing's moving. Like one guy that I listened to, Matt Farah on the Smoking Tire podcast, he said that when he drove it, he felt like that was at the limit of what he could like handle and see and react to. He was like, it was so fast that he was like, I felt like I couldn't keep up with reactions with the car.
Interesting. Yeah, that's nuts. I can't imagine driving that around the street because, like I said, here in Copland, Virginia, like the speed limit is still 55 on the highway. So it's like, you got a car with 1,000,000 horsepower, like you're on it, boom, and you're already like doing record breaking or law breaking speeds.
No, I don't even know if you'd be in second gear in a ZR1.
Yeah, so it's just that's ridiculous, man. That's why, like, having I think something like the Miata, 180 horsepower, you can get on it, roll through the gears, and still not be like doing like jail speeds over here, in Virginia. So
you know what car actually seems like it'd be a lot of fun to like drive on the streets?
What was that?
A Fiesta ST. They supposedly, I've never driven one, but they supposedly handle amazing. They're a little turbo 4-cylinder. They don't have a ton of power.
Yeah,
but like I think those things can be set up to handle real well.
Right.
And they're never going to be fast enough to like really get you in trouble.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of tiny. I'd probably spring for like maybe the Focus, but
Focus RS.
No, I just want the Focus. Was it Focus ST, right?
Yeah, they make an ST as well. Yeah,
so that's probably because I'm sure the RS is. Yeah, the RS is pricey.
330 horsepower, I think.
Man,
all-wheel drive.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, but now they're gone. Ford started getting things right, and they got nervous. So
yeah, I don't know what happened if that car just got caught up in the whole like Ford getting rid of their cars, or why they started it, sold it for a couple years and stopped it. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a waste. This is another thing I talked about in last week's podcast. I'll bring up again to get your opinion. I was talking about how I think car manufacturers are kind of doing themselves a disservice by they're keeping the name even though cars are clearly not what it is anymore.
Oh yeah. That's,
so for example, I've read that they considered calling the 4-door Mustang a Falcon.
Right.
And instantly in my head, I'm like, love it, awesome, cool, another car. But if you call it a Mustang when it's got 4 doors, I'm like, hate it. It's terrible, not a Mustang.
Yeah,
Same
and that's
what Supra, I'm like, it's not a Supra, it's not a JZ. Call it something else.
That's what the dude in blue or whatever was talking about too, and I agree. But I guess like with the Falcon thing, I mean, yeah. So enthusiasts know, okay, Falcon is an Aussie car, it's over in Australia or whatever. But like, I think when's the last time they sold a Falcon over here? If they did at all, I can't remember. But like,
well, they did back in the day, and it was a 4-door car. So
right,
like, it would make sense. Like there would be some historical reference to go off.
Right.
Of. I think I said this last week. I'm sorry for repeating anything, but the worst to me is the Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Isn't that like a crossover nowadays or something like that?
Yeah, it looks similar size to like a RAV4.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Mitsubishi started having all kinds of issues as soon as they made the Eclipse. When they swapped it over, I think in 2000 or whatever. Like, yeah, that's when the start of the downfall of the Eclipse.
I think they got rid of the turbo variant too. They got rid of what was it? That was an underrated car because what was it? The GSX.
Yeah, it had the Evo motor in the 4G63, and so
and it was all-wheel drive.
Right, but I kind of see why they did it because the Evo was coming over, I think, in 03, and so. I don't know. I feel like you couldn't have the GSX and the Evo selling at the same time. You know what I'm saying? You're competing against yourself, especially when the GSX was cheaper than.
I feel like car companies are always so worried about cannibalizing their own market, but people are going to buy what like the Eclipse was a 2-door and the Evo is a sedan with like rally roots, and the Eclipse was a sporty coupe.
But if it was similar power and one was cheaper, I feel like a lot of people maybe the Evo was just out of reach. So like, I'll just grab a GSX if they were selling, new at the same time. So
they're still buying Mitsubishi. So I guess they're way smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff. But it seems like car companies are always terrified. Like they'll hold back performance on cars, and it, like to a frustrating level because they're so afraid of cannibalizing their next level.
Yeah, and I bet they say the number one person that's guilty of this is Porsche. Is what I hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're like, oh, we can make this car like just fast. We want to cannibalize a 911 or Carrera sales or whatever. So they like stagger them all out.
What is it? They're what is it, the 718 that you can get with like a 4-cylinder that apparently is super slow. And it's like, but then Porsche kind of does it to themselves because they price out their lower end cars so close to like a base model 911. I mean, if you're worried about that, you got to give it a gap. Make it so that it's not so easy to jump up to the 911 or to be like, like they can't be that close in price then.
Yeah, those cars are so out of my price range, I don't even pay them attention.
I mean, you can get a 964 because everybody hates them for pretty cheap.
Okay, well, I mean, I can afford some of the older Porsches and stuff, but like the newer stuff, like one they just came out with not too long ago called the 911R, and I think they only made like 500 of them or something like that, super limited. But it was manual, like throwback to like classic Porsches, and I was like, man, I would love to have one of those, but I think it was something ridiculous, like 200 grand or something, 400 grand, I don't know.
You can get the what was the 964 was the one where they changed the headlights.
Is that the circle headlights or the?
No, they got away from the circle where they made them the weird shape, and literally all Porsche enthusiasts lost their mind. But you can get into one of those. Hoovie's Garage got one for $35,000, I think.
That's not bad. I guess
he got the turbo. You can get a 964 911 non-turbo variant. I think for somewhere down around 20 grand.
I think as long as like maybe you can do your own maintenance, it's probably not that bad move. But
well, I mean, as German cars go, maintenance is where it gets. The Germans build fantastic cars, but they over-engineer them sometimes.
Right. So that's the kicker with that. The German performance cars. Yeah. And that's what I was wondering about the E36 thing. People are like, oh, they make great drift cars, but I imagine just like maintenance. But I guess back then it's not as bad as buying like the newer German stuff. So
yeah, from what I've heard, it was a lot of the issues with the newer German stuff. I think is the electronics. There's so much going on with it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I think with German cars too is who owned it before you.
That's true.
It's about maintenance because with German cars, from what I've seen and issues that happen is if you skip the maintenance, it's not going to be an issue now.
You'll pay for it later.
But it's going to be an issue in 80,000 miles.
Right.
And it's like, and if you skip certain things, it's going to become an issue no matter what. Like the 2-liters in the GLIs and the GTIs.
Yeah.
If you don't take care of the timing chains, at some point they're going to skip timing and you're going to end up with bent valves and a ruined head and it's going to happen eventually.
Right.
And it's like just because you skip that service, it doesn't mean it's going to happen now. But if someone skipped those services and you buy it with 120,000 miles on it, not knowing that those services, even if they were done but done late, I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, I personally would stay away from like high mileage German performance cars.
Because I remember at one point I was looking at getting a 335i, and I told you that, and you were like, oh, twin turbo, high performance, used German. BMW. You're like, that's not going to be any issues at all.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. What could go wrong? Everything could.
Right. They're coming down in price too, and they look good, But I just
Well, the reason I was looking so heavily into those was because they're 300 stock, 300 horsepower, 300 torque. And you're at 400.
Yeah, I got a buddy that has one, and he was saying the same thing. It's like they make, you go for 400 horsepower like pretty cheap and quick. Yeah. Or not cheap, but pretty easily. So I was like, man.
Exactly. I wouldn't call it cheap, but and a lot. You can get all that stuff used too, because so many people get rid of that stuff when they put it back to stock to sell it because modded 335i's don't sell that well because everyone knows it would beat piss.
They said it's was it cheap, fast, and reliable, and it's like pick two.
yeah, pretty much. That's got to be one of the most accurate statements ever.
Absolutely. Man,
All right. Well, I think I just noticed the time. I think we could probably wrap it up here for this week. I think those are words of wisdom to end on. You can pick 2, not 3.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you. We'll have to get you on again in the future.
Definitely. I know my schedule is super crazy,
next
but
time I'm going to give you more of a heads up because I want to hear some of your unpopular car opinions. I want to see if you can trigger the internet.
Yeah, easily.
All right, guys. Make sure to follow me on IG if you're not already. It's Golo Auto. If you want to shout out your...
No.
Well, still no?
Car guys, yeah. Car guys probably not, it's, yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll end it here. I'll talk to you guys next week. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. Appreciate it.
Notifications. Don't forget notifications.
Yeah, that's too. Good call, man. Well, I pay you the big bucks.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, man.
Yep. See you later.